Popularized during 2017's Overwatch World Cup, running a Bastion has since become an incredibly strong niche pick in a myriad of situations. Imagine a Bastion setting up in turret form on a mobile payload, with the support of his entire team, with a barrier in front and unlimited heals in the back, on top of a mercy pocket. On paper, this seems like a truly unbeatable combination, especially when you yourself must stand on the payload to cease any progress. What's the name of this elaborate setup? That's what we're going to be talking about today. This is the Bastion-based composition known as Pirate Ship. Broken down to its most basic form, the composition only actually requires a barrier and a bastion. The barrier seen on top of the payload is where the composition originally garnered its name, visually similar to the masts of a pirate ship. Once you have those two elements, you already have a pirate ship composition going. To keep this ship afloat, however, you're going to need a payload to keep that bastion mobile. While set up, the bastion becomes the president that the rest of the team must protect at all costs. With this backbone behind him, Bastion is able to output a steady stream of highly sustained damage wherever and whenever it's needed. Any shield that dares contest the hellfire of bullets is quickly melted as well as anything or anyone else in the payload's path. Famously, Team France were able to utilize the pirate ship comp to achieve a full 3-point push on their second attack round on Junkertown during the 2017 World Cup quarterfinals. To the shock of both Team China and audience alike, the timer eventually kicked into overtime, with France sitting solidly on the point with very little contest. Let's dive into the match to see just how they pulled it off and visualize the strength of this composition. It was down to the wire with both teams netting 3 points each on Junkertown, both managing to complete the full map's length within their allotted time. After France attacked, China had their offensive, and now it's back to France's turn. Heading into it, China has their own damage-boosted bastion set up on the bridge above the first major choke point of the map, lending itself to a strong defense against any uncoordinated offense. With a Reinhardt by his side, this red bastion should be able to sit comfortably for a decent amount of time, all whilst pumping damage down main. On the side of France, they have a bastion of their own, but this bastion has two barriers to his name, Nico on Orisa and Nox on Rhine. AKM immediately sets up turret mode on the point, while Soon gets a head start on chipping away at China's barriers. Junkrat is favorable in the matchup of barriers, for his incredible frag grenade damage dealing 120 health to any barrier on impact. With the barriers or sails up, France is moving out. However, unprepared for the defensive bastion, France's Reinhardt isn't on the point, and AKM makes the crucial mistake of leaping out of the safety of his barrier and falls to Eileen, who is dominating the high ground in front of them. Quickly burning the Resurrect, France takes a second to recuperate their forces while the payload advances. AKM, jumping around the corner and directly contesting the choke, utilizes the two large bodies in front of him to absolutely lay into China's front line, shredding Yao Yao's barrier and getting Eileen low enough for Soon to finish them both off with the concussion mine. The payload progresses. Quickly jumping onto the point, it's time for AKM to man the cannons once again and begin applying some mobile pressure. Jumping off of the cart momentarily to hopefully get an angle on China's Zenyatta, we quickly see why it's best for a Bastion to remain under the protection of his barriers, and AKM returns to safety.
And the Orisa, and Soon also going to be chunking through the enemy barriers very fast with the Junkrat spam damage. Right. So they win the barrier wars by having twice as many barriers and a lot more damage.
Giving up the point to prepare for a stronger defense on the streets phase, China falls back. The timer kicks into overtime, meaning that a member of France must remain on or around the payload at all times. This may prove to be difficult, especially given that the streets of Junkertown reward high ground play, as well as provide ample angles directly onto the street below. Nonetheless, France's pirate ship advances onward with their sails raised. With China on high ground with their own bastion, France's Orisa shield breaks quite easily, but is quickly replaced with Reinhardt's own, providing just enough time for Orisa to get hers back up ASAP. Rotating barriers like this is crucial to maintain uptime of Bastion's shooting. While rotating barriers, however, China's time sends in their Diva Bomb to scatter France's offense, but wins pops Transcendence to save his life and keep his teammates on the point. Eileen activates his ult and drops down to contest. AKM also activates his own ultimate and one-shots Zunfa Jun out of the sky. With China burning ults of their own, France needs Bastion's burst fire right now. Wanfang swoops in for the resurrect, but soon was already sending his tire in with a quick 2k onto Wanfang and leave. AKM kills Zhufanjun again, since he was resurrected out of position. And France at last has the pushing power to eliminate the rest of China and continue on to the next phase of Junkertown. Recuperating quickly after the fight, AKM repositions himself back on top of the cart, whilst Orisa raises a brand new sail onto the deck. Right before the entry into the demolition dome, China attempts one final defense but is easily gunned down by AKM, who is actually set up in the corner, not on point. It's important to note that you can use the enemy assuming the Bastion's position to your advantage, and the Bastion can set up in various areas overlooking the cart, rather than sitting directly on top of it. Now it's time for the roundabout, also a thin choke point with an emphasis on winning the ground duel. It will be important for Nico and Nox to keep their barriers placed properly to shield AKM from all incoming fire, especially from the center high ground. Right as France is rounding the corner, however, Yao Yao has secretly been hiding in a room behind them and opens with a reverse shatter, downing the entirety of Team France except for those positioned directly on top of the payload, since it's floating and unaffected by Earth Shatter. AKM immediately pops his ult and kills Leave, while Nox charges Yao Yao in response. While this is happening, Time has launched their Diva Bomb into the fray and managed to eliminate Nico, whilst Eileen has assassinated Unko's Mercy. In desperation, Wanfang goes for the resurrection onto Eileen but dies in the process, with the Resurrectee dying shortly after. As a final note, France demechs Time and the payload advances towards its goal once again. Still in overtime, it comes down to this last fight for China to sink France once and for all. As the fight begins, Leave gets a crucial first pick onto AKM, the bread and butter of France's offense. Soon sends out his tire but is killed in the process, and Unko manages to resurrect AKM on point. AKM sets up as fast as he can and manages to eliminate Leave, but not before Leave pulse bombs him as he goes down. Both Zens pop Transcendence and it remains a stalemate just long enough for Nox to build up a shatter, which downs and eliminates Yao Yao's Winston. Wanfang yet again swoops in to res Yao Yao and the fight burns on. Nico is demeched, so he pops bomb and it gets rid of Eileen. A few more trades take place, but Wanfang is out of resurrects, and France whittles China down, securing the third point.
The payload's moving forward. Wanfang has to jump onto it himself to try to stay alive. Leave on the Doomfist, but he can't get any kills. And here we go. Do they do it? France did it! Complete it. 1 minute in the time bank, and they will finish their attack round on Junkertown. I have almost never seen that happen before.
This push came down to France having an incredibly sharp understanding of the strengths of the pirate ship composition. Funneling all of the resources into Bastion so he can do his work is crucial to maximizing his potential. By punishing the enemy just by peeking, it allows your tanks to actually live longer since the Bastion is the one creating space. When the enemy pops ult, however, Bastion's tank configuration allows you to access quick burst damage that Bastion's usual sustain can't compete with. All of this is only further magnified by running a Zenyatta to discord the ship's current target and a Mercy power boost permanently attached to Bastion. Since 2017, a lot has changed when it comes to the pirate ship composition. New heroes have come out and various balance changes have taken place. In 2019, Double Shield and Bunker were the popular compositions, which brought pirate ship back around as an alternative. Usually run exclusively on Junkertown to utilize the long sightlines, pirate ship can be run on any payload or hybrid map to great effect. In March 2019, Baptiste was released, who brought the infamous Immortality Field and Amplification Matrix into play, both of which directly synergize with what pirate ship's strengths are. In a pinch, the Immortality Field can save Bastion's life, and the Amp Matrix even further amplifies Bastion's already ridiculous damage output. It was during this era of Bunker that Sombra's true strength was able to shine, as her EMP was a direct counter to Bunker and pirate ship as a whole. Deleting barriers with a press of a button and entirely removing turret mode from Bastion's kit proved to be fatal to the composition. Nevertheless, the composition and all of its variations are still run today, and Bastion's true power as a niche pick remains unthwarted. With the composition lacks in mobility and heavy reliance on a single character, it makes up for with potentially the single highest damage potential in the game, making it a strong contender as a surprise pick against uncoordinated teams. And that's all we have for this episode of Behind the Action. Have you ever fought against a pirate ship composition? Do you think the composition still has strengths yet to be uncovered? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.
This video is made possible thanks to our wonderful patrons. Massive thank you to everyone on this list, and shout out to Jason, B, Brendan, QB, Foxy, Mauve, Pachanas, Sierra, Shampoo, Weeaboo, Spartacus, and Yashichi for being platinum supporters. And an extra special shout out to Steven, Noodles, and Marco for being diamond supporters. Happy New Year! We're glad you're all still here. Check us out on Instagram, linked in the description. If you want to support our channel and get info on unreleased videos, check out our Patreon. If you want to help us out in a different way, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is also appreciated. My name is Jonah. Thanks for watching.